Most people speak their limitations more than their potential. They say things like, I can't afford that, that's too expensive, or I'm just trying to survive. But what if your words are creating your world? What if your mouth is the factory where your future is manufactured? The truth is, your subconscious mind is always listening. When you speak lack, you attract lack. But when you speak unlimited supply, you train your energy, your faith, and your reality to align with abundance. So speak only what you want to receive. Instead of saying, I don't have enough, say, I live in overflow. Instead of saying, money is hard to get, say, wealth flows to me in expected and unexpected ways. Speak health. Speak prosperity. Speak divine connections and breakthroughs. Your mouth is a magnet. Train it to only pull in the limitless. The words you speak are not just harmless expressions, they are blueprints. Every sentence you utter carries energetic weight and psychological influence. From a young age, we're conditioned to believe that speaking negatively is simply being realistic, but in truth, it's a form of subconscious programming that sets the limits on what we're willing to receive. Words like I can't, I'll never, or it's too hard don't just express doubt, they install it. The brain listens intently to what you say and works overtime to prove it right. What you say out loud becomes what you believe internally, and what you believe dictates what you attract. Your reality is not shaped solely by action, it is shaped by language. Before anything exists in the physical realm, it exists in the mental and verbal realms. Every great success, innovation, or breakthrough started as a spoken idea, declared either aloud or within. This is why ancient spiritual traditions and modern success coaches alike emphasize the power of the tongue. It acts as a bridge between your imagination and your lived experience. When you consistently declare abundance, success, and growth, even before seeing results, your subconscious begins to work in harmony with that vision. You begin to notice opportunities you would have otherwise ignored, and people are drawn to the energy you're emitting. Think of your words as seeds. You plant them every time you speak, and over time, those seeds grow into your life experiences. If you constantly sow the seeds of lack, you will harvest anxiety, fear, and limitation. But if you plant declarations of abundance and wealth, you cultivate a field of potential that supports expansion and joy. The delay between planting and harvesting tricks many people into thinking words don't matter, but everything you say today is a silent architect of your tomorrow. Just because it isn't instant doesn't mean it's not powerful. Science supports this as well. Neuroplasticity proves that the brain rewires itself based on repeated language and belief systems. What you say becomes what you think becomes what you feel, and what you feel becomes how you act. So, when you constantly say things like, money is flowing to me, or I always have more than enough, your brain begins to find ways to make that your reality. It filters out distractions and focuses on opportunities. It keeps you from self-sabotaging because your internal dialogue aligns with your desired outcome. The transformation isn't magic, it's mental discipline practiced through speech. In every moment, you are either speaking life or speaking limitation. The universe doesn't differentiate between sarcasm, jokes, or deep emotional truth. It responds to vibration, and your words carry vibration. Every complaint is an affirmation of what you don't want. Every declaration is an invitation to what you do want. This is why people who speak abundance often live in abundance. They've trained their reality to obey their voice. Speak as if what you want is already yours, and soon you'll find your external world catching up to the power of your internal language. Scarcity talk is one of the most destructive habits we unconsciously develop, yet it's so normalized that we rarely question it. Phrases like, I can't afford that, that's out of my league, or money doesn't grow on trees, sound innocent on the surface, but they reveal a deeply rooted belief that there's not enough to go around. These statements create invisible barriers in the mind, walls that block opportunity, creativity, and prosperity. Every time we say such phrases, we're reinforcing the idea that wealth is distant, limited, and reserved for others, not for us. The problem isn't just financial, it's energetic and mental. Scarcity talk locks you into a loop of survival rather than creation. Rejecting scarcity talk means making a conscious decision to never let your words contradict the life you're trying to build. It's not about ignoring reality. It's about speaking into a higher one. When you constantly say, "I can't afford it," you're not just acknowledging a financial constraint, you're solidifying it. The brain begins to believe that certain levels of success or comfort are permanently unavailable to you. You stop looking for ways to expand and begin settling for whatever is within reach. In contrast, saying "that's not in my budget right now, but I'm creating space for it," opens the door to possibility. It keeps the flow open. It tells your subconscious and the universe that you are not done. You're just on the way. Many people think they are being responsible when they speak in terms of lack, but responsibility isn't about limiting your vision. It's about expanding your awareness. True responsibility is knowing that your words carry power and choosing them wisely. When you reject scarcity talk, you force yourself to stretch mentally. You begin to see wealth as a mindset, not just a number in a bank account. You start to develop language that matches abundance. Phrases like "I'm attracting new income streams," or "I always have what I need and more." These words activate higher levels of thought and emotion. They position you for growth because they remind you that lack is not your final state. It's just a temporary chapter that you're rewriting. It's also crucial to understand how scarcity language can affect relationships, creativity, and even health. When you constantly talk about not having enough time, not having enough energy, or not being good enough, you send signals to your nervous system that you're in danger, that you're unworthy, that you're stuck. This increases stress and shuts down your ability to think clearly or take inspired action. But when you speak from abundance, even if it feels uncomfortable at first, you begin to override those limiting signals. You shift into a calmer, more expansive state where solutions begin to reveal themselves. Your mind becomes a fertile space for vision instead of a prison for fear. Breaking the habit of scarcity talk requires daily awareness. You have to become your own mental editor, catching yourself the moment you speak from limitation and replacing it with a more empowering truth. If you catch yourself saying, "I never have enough," pause and say, "I am learning to attract more than enough." This small shift keeps the flow of possibility alive. The more you do it, the more it becomes your default. Eventually, rejecting scarcity talk won't be something you think about. It will be something you live by. And the world you experience will reflect that inner change in unmistakable ways. To speak in alignment with the infinite means to shift your entire perception of who you are and what you're connected to. You are not a solitary, powerless figure drifting through a harsh and random world. You are a living expression of a vast, intelligent, creative source that lacks nothing. When you speak from a place of infinite connection, your language reflects trust, not fear. You stop saying things like "I don't know how I'll make it," and start saying "everything I need is finding its way to me now." This isn't about denial, it's about divine alignment. You recognize that your words are not only signals to your subconscious, but also calls to the universe, declaring what you're ready to receive. Most people unknowingly speak from separation. They speak as if they are cut off from power, as if they're alone in their efforts. This creates a low frequency of speech, filled with anxiety, doubt, and helplessness. But when you speak from unity with the infinite, whether you call it God, Source, the universe, or higher self, you activate a higher reality. You begin to understand that your voice is not just yours. It is an instrument of the divine. When you declare wealth, peace, healing, and overflow, you're not making a selfish wish. you're aligning your human experience with the limitless nature of spirit. And alignment always creates manifestation. There's a reason spiritual traditions across time have emphasized the spoken word. In Genesis, the world was created with speech, "Let there be light." In ancient mysticism, sacred chants and mantras were believed to carry transformational power. In quantum physics, consciousness is shown to affect reality at the molecular level. All of these point to the same truth: what you speak, you shape. And when your speech is rooted in divine truth, in the reality of abundance, wholeness, and infinite supply, you are speaking the language of miracles. You stop begging life to give you scraps and start claiming your rightful inheritance. You stop identifying as a struggler and begin to embody the truth that all things are already working for you. This practice isn't always easy, especially when your external life seems to contradict your declarations. You might be speaking wealth while surrounded by debt, or speaking healing while battling sickness. But that's exactly when speaking in alignment matters most. It's not about describing what you see. It's about declaring what you know to be higher than what you see. Faith-filled speech pulls unseen realities into visible form. It is a spiritual law, just as real as gravity. When you hold to it, you rise above appearances and begin to influence them. You shift the atmosphere around you, not by force, but by the authority of your alignment. When you speak in alignment with the infinite, you speak from abundance, not from desperation. You speak from peace, not panic. You no longer use your words to echo your limitations. You use them to reflect divine truth. You say, "I am provided for," even when your account is empty. You say, "I am supported in every way," even when others doubt you. And somehow, in ways you can't always explain, life begins to meet you at the level of your language. People, ideas, breakthroughs, and resources begin showing up, not because you forced them, but because you finally spoke in harmony with the unlimited source from which all things flow. Daily verbal discipline is the foundation of true wealth consciousness. Just as athletes train their bodies and musicians rehearse their instruments, those who wish to live in abundance must train their tongues. What you say each day isn't just sound, it's a pattern, and repeated patterns form habits. If you wake up every morning and unconsciously complain about your job, your bills, or how tired you are, you're creating a mental atmosphere that supports struggle. But if you intentionally begin your day by speaking life, "Today is full of opportunities. Money is flowing toward me. I am open to unexpected blessings." You rewire your mind to expect good, and your life begins to align accordingly. Discipline doesn't begin in the bank account. It begins in the mouth. This kind of verbal training isn't about pretending everything is perfect. It's about deciding what kind of energy you want to live in. Every time you say something, you either reinforce a scarcity mindset or nurture a wealth mindset. When you complain, criticize, or self-limit, you're practicing poverty. When you declare abundance, praise what's working, and speak with purpose, you're exercising prosperity. Just like going to the gym, the first few sessions of verbal discipline may feel awkward or forced. But over time, speaking abundance becomes second nature, and when your language changes, your behavior, confidence, and choices follow suit. You begin to see wealth not as something you chase, but something you generate. One of the most powerful tools in this practice is creating affirmations and repeating them daily. This isn't just feel-good psychology, it's neuroscience. The brain forms pathways based on repetition. When you say, "I am worthy of financial overflow," every day, your subconscious begins to accept that as truth. You start making decisions that align with worthiness instead of desperation. You start recognizing opportunities instead of ignoring them. Your energy becomes magnetic. Wealth doesn't just arrive through effort. It flows through alignment. Daily affirmations act as a compass that keeps your inner world directed toward abundance. even when the outer world hasn't caught up yet. Verbal discipline also helps you take back power from fear and doubt. In moments of stress, most people default to negative speech. Nothing's working. I'll never get ahead. This always happens to me. These statements feel true because they're familiar, but familiarity doesn't make them facts. When you practice speaking abundance every day, you build a new default, one rooted in hope, strength, and solution-oriented thinking. You start catching yourself mid-sentence, replacing "I can't" with "I'm finding a way." You stop reinforcing the past and start prophesying your future. Over time, you become someone whose entire inner dialogue is anchored in vision rather than victimhood. The real wealth isn't just in dollars, it's in consciousness. You could receive $1 million today, but if your internal language is still rooted in fear and lack, you'll lose it just as quickly. But if you develop a rich, powerful mindset, one that declares, expects, and protects abundance, then wealth becomes a natural extension of who you are. That mindset is built in daily moments, when you talk to yourself in the mirror, when you speak about your dreams, when you affirm your value despite external chaos. These small disciplines build an unshakable mental environment, and that environment, over time, draws prosperity in every form. You were never meant to live in lack. You were never designed to just get by. The words that leave your mouth are not just sounds, they are spells. And you are the magician. Every sentence you speak is either building a future of freedom or reinforcing a prison of fear. You have the power to decide, will your voice echo scarcity or will it declare abundance? Will you keep repeating cycles of survival or will you command a new season of overflow? This is not about fake positivity. It's about divine authority. It's about understanding that your words are bridges between the unseen and the seen. That you are connected to an infinite source, and your language must reflect that truth daily. Discipline your mouth like a warrior disciplines his weapon. Speak like every word is creating something, because it is. You don't have to wait for circumstances to change. You don't have to wait until the money comes, until the doors open, until you feel ready. Begin now, begin today. Speak only what you want to live. Speak as someone who already walks in abundance. Speak as someone who knows the universe responds to faith, not fear. Speak as someone who has trained their mouth to pull in the limitless, because the truth is, the moment your mouth shifts, your life follows.